we want to dissect this YouGov economist more like Bernie? Do you want the candidates to be more like Bernie or less like Bernie? There's a bunch of info on here, but there's some interesting ones.
I haven't seen this yet, so this is all fresh to me.
I just saw it during the show here.
You take the top lines.
I mean, you can start with a couple. I mean, number one, you look at the racial categories. It's white people who hate Bernie the most.
Right. Basically, do you want Bernie to be a candidate who's more like Bernie Sanders? 30% for whites, 45% for African Americans. No. Oh, yeah, you got it. Right? No.
I thought you were reading horizontal. You're reading horizontal.
Horizontally, right? 33% for Hispanic and 42% for other.
Oh, and
so
is
there you
this
go.
a survey of just Democrats or of everyone?
There is a few crosstabs down there, too. So, like, on the bottom left corner, there's registered and not registered to vote. And not registered, slightly more positive toward Bernie. And then there's also the 2016 vote at the bottom. 62% of Hillary voters want candidates to be more like Bernie. Only 19 want them to be less like Bernie.
And by the way, that is a great look. There's this argument going on the periphery about I want, you might catch occasionally, bag a Moby Dick and flip a ardent Trump authoritarian to a socialist. It's possible. But in terms of reality, your prime fishing ground for pushing for greater radicalism is liberals. As annoying as they might be, as many disagreements we might have, that stat shows you 62% of Hillary Clinton voters more like Bernie, 8% of Donald Trump, 64% of liberals, 35% of moderates, 12% of conservatives, and 2% not sure. Liberals are the place.
I think
not just liberals, but people who don't vote as well, who are disproportionately
that's not
poor.
The point I'm making. That's not the point I'm making in this context. In this context, in that specific argument about who to appeal to and who is the most receptive ground for it, and who, by the way, that maybe we should think of being strategic about not alienating, even as we have to critique them, it's liberals. Absolutely non-voters. And I think a fair amount of poor, ultra-oppressed non-voters who are burned out in the process tend to have fairly a left sense that can be tapped into if there's actually an honest momentum.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is interesting that there's evidence that unregistered people are more for Bernie.
That makes total sense to me.
But it's also there's also less of them in this. There are 242 respondents versus 1,200. But the other thing I want to say is, I think I said this on TMBS, that when you're thinking about sort of liberal centrists,
right?
Like how they come in the crunch, whether they side with fascists or they just stay dumb or they go to the left. I said a third will come to the left, a third will just be idiots in the middle and not comprehend the world, and a third will go with the fascists.
Right.
And literally, if you look at the ideology category on the bottom right, 35% want more like Bernie Sanders, 33 want less, and 33 are unsure.
Precisely.
Wow. Spot on, dude.
Nailed it. Anything else you guys want to pick from this?
I mean, even I feel like Bree was talking about this maybe on your show or maybe on another show. Like, she sort of believed this idea that was spread via loudmouth liberals on Twitter that African American voters just don't like Bernie Sanders. And you can see from the numbers that is not true.
I don't think Bree does not think that at all.
She said that she was surprised
at how much they like them.
Yeah.
Right, but she didn't mean that they hate him. She meant that she was, and specifically in a state, she was talking about going to Alabama, which voting-wise, very heavily in the South, Hillary over Bernie. And so she was surprised specifically in that context.
Yeah, she was surprised to see the immense amount of support, energy, and excitement from, people of all ages and races, but African Americans.
And I think from our perspective, that's what we said the entire primary too, which is that Hillary's got the advantage because of name recognition.
Yeah, that's it.